Amazing, they scare me, you're probably right. Black cats and goblins on Halloween night. Trick or treat!
Ah, yes. Welcome to our final entry for this particular Halloween. We're reviewing Halloween again, but this time a brand new 4K mastery that was dropped with a lot of special features and including a special extended cut of the movie which had additional footage that was added to the film. This is the Blu-ray 4K copy. And although the original one was okay, it was, my God, I don't think they did a very good restoring job on that version. And unfortunately, it was really when I got past 50-inch screen TVs that I started to notice it. This particular version of the film is just in incredible shape. It's beautiful. It also has a nice Dolby Atmos track. And unlike what I encountered with Poltergeist 2, this track is absolutely perfect. All the dialogue is still perfect. The surround sound is absolutely amazing. They even restored the original mono track through DTS, which is impressive in its own right. And they also have a DTS 5.1 track. I mean, they just went out of their way to make this film better. This sequence here, starting out, is just one of those like, whoa. All right, so as you can see, they did a lot. Just the opening sequence of this movie is incredible in its own right. They have this shot where they're doing stuff with a Steadicam, or Panaglide, I believe was the name of the version in this movie that they used to become young Michael Myers going through the sequence. And I can tell you that this film is in incredible shape, but it also puts you in the steps of the killer. You're actually experiencing stuff. And they kind of did a little homage to this in that three picture trilogy that they made with everybody. And it's just incredible. I mean, the shot. And Deborah Hill was reaching down. She was the one who grabbed the knife and the mask, of course, the clown mask, and puts it on. They did a lot of great work here with this film, and just, it's so impressive. And it just works so well. And yet you see like young Michael Myers here. And by the way, this is like the only time he's truly unmasked and you get to see what he looks like in the film. This time when he's a kid, and one more time in this film when he's fighting Jamie, and Dr. Loomis comes in, played by Donald Pleasance. It's really an impressive sequence, and that's it. That's the only time we've really ever seen Michael's face in the whole film series, from every film. And even in the current films, while we do see this little stuff, he's we only get these little edges of this guy's face. We never really see Michael Myers completely. And I think that's actually a smart move. And it just works. The story goes, Halloween night, 1963, he kills his sister. He basically stops functioning as a normal human being and is put in prison for many years. Years later, Donald Pleasance literally has to drag him out and take him to court. The problem is he engineers a impressive escape and manages to get all the way back to Haddonfield, Illinois. Yeah, Illinois. Even though most everything in this film is shot in California, like Los Angeles, you actually will see palm trees every once in a while. So fair warning about that. Everything they did, remember, this film was so cheap they couldn't even build sets. It was a miracle they got the stuff they did. You had the Panaglide, you have a crane shot in just this opening sequence. And I think that's also why this film doesn't feel like it's a low budget film. It's got all of these nice little tricks, and it's also something that looks almost better than it should. It's also in a nice big screen format. Now, recently, if you're watching this in 2024, there's also talks that this might be hitting back to theaters for a little bit, which I would really love to see this in theaters. You have to remember, this movie came out long before I came into the world. I'm like an 80s, undead kid. So there's that. And I grew up with this film along with most other people. We grew up with Michael, we grew up with Freddy, we grew up with Jason, and some of the other characters and stuff. And although I did say, like how Kane was more terrifying than Poltergeist, I have to be honest, Michael is a much more believable threat. He's still human, he's still incredibly dangerous. There's an incredible level of an intelligence to this character. I mean, literally, the psychology people are like, for Christ's sakes, he can't even drive a car. He was doing very well last night. And Donald Pleasence plays the roles incredibly well. There's, of course, the famous speech in the film that Donald Pleasence does, which basically sets up a lot. And I'll get to that in a minute. But basically, he gets back to Haddonfield and he goes to his house, but he also sees all these people that remind him of his old life. He even goes and gets his sister's tombstone, for crying out loud. And he stalks for a while Jamie Lee Curtis's character and stuff. And the sheer amount of like just planning and stuff. The other thing is Michael is not just like slashing and dashing and carving people up like a Thanksgiving roast every 5 minutes either. There's something more. He actually lets people go. We've also seen this with Jason, but it's usually with kids, so there's that. And it just is a completely different thing, and it makes sense with who Michael Myers is. Here we have a young Laurie Strode, we have the young kid, and, these characters would eventually come back in some of those other movies, not all of them being the original young actors, but hey, it's a thought that counts. But it also tells us a lot about what's going on. I gotta be honest though, I was like sometimes just shocked with the sheer amount of like insanity that they put into these films. And it works very well. Also, as these scenes are playing, you have John Carpenter's score playing in the background. He did, I think, most everything in this film, and it just works so incredibly well. You have these moments where it's there and moments where it's not. He plays everything so well in that regard. And it actually works. It's kind of like how, the shark was there when the theme was there in Jaws and stuff. And it's a pretty impressive setup. I'm not going to lie, they do a fantastic job with this movie. And this particular version, especially with the Atmos, is just incredible as far as I can tell. Maybe it's just my equipment, but oh my god, it was so much fun to watch this movie again. And it was just great. There's really no other way to say that. And this particular edition of the movie has so much content. It has great productions. And remember, they really restored this film. And in fact, the original cinematographer was the one who supervised the 4K scan from the actual original camera negative, which means they went to the source material of this film to restore this film and put it in 4K. That would explain also another reason why it's the best looking version of the movie out there. I've seen details I didn't even know were there. And I've seen this movie God knows how many times. Thank God. I love that. It's so good. And the fact that they don't, override dialogue with bombastic music or sound effects or cars skidding by is another great little thing. Okay, I was just coming by and I had to comment on this one. This one has been parodied, this little sequence has been parodied in so many movies, including, good old Paranorman. And I think it's just a great little cute scene. And they've done these great little things. In fact, there's so much in this movie that's like a great parody that it's become part of the lexicon of horror and stuff, and it just works so well. They really were just like deciding what to do. I mean, they ratcheted up the psychological aspect of this film slowly and effectively, and it just worked so incredibly well.
Seems to me you're just plain scared.
Yes. Yeah, I am. I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, and even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up, because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
I did want to let that play real quick. I'm just hoping nobody will hit me on it because, it's such an important thing. That whole sequence tells you so much about this character. There's like almost no humanity left. There's intelligence, yes. There's a desire to do things. Unfortunately, that's usually ending somebody's life. And it just makes for an incredible sequence. And of course, there's the ending of the film and how that goes. Laurie's, partial, I would say, triumph over him and stuff. Loomis to the rescue. If, I go into too much detail, I'll spoil so much. But basically, he gets back. He starts to check out things. He starts to live in his old house again. Sam is on his trail. And slowly but surely, he starts to pick out these targets. And he starts to do what a good or a not so good serial killer does. And he starts to take these people out. And he just becomes a dangerous threat on a level most people will never encounter, or hopefully never will encounter. And I think that is one of the things that really sets this film apart from many others. And it tells you a lot, too. And Donald Pleasence plays this role perfectly. He's, endearing. There's even a little point in the film where he pulls his own little Halloween trick on a bunch of kids, which is just hilarious. You see him enjoying himself, even though he's in such a state. And it's just such fun. This movie, again, was not shot on much. They were lucky to get the actors, these locations. They were lucky to get everything. And they just went for it. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some guerrilla filmmaking in this as well, just to really pull this movie off. And it looks all right here, but what I'm seeing on my screen, the actual movie playing is just incredible. The lights in Donald Pleasence's eyes as they just sort of hang there, it's incredible. I mean, it's like nothing you've seen in this image. I'm not gonna lie, they did a great job here. This film just totally is worth it. There's little things that they do. Michael Myers, the Shape, as the main actor, is not the one who's the cool face looking person, but the things he does, he didn't have to do anything, and yet he could just convey fear, having a ghost costume on. And let's not forget the sequence where he's like looking at a dude who's like stapled to the wall with a kitchen knife, and he's just admiring him like you would admire a butterfly collection, for crying out loud. It's an incredible film. And the thing is, it was done by a bunch of people in 4 weeks who were just having fun making a movie while working their butts off. And, then this film comes out, and it basically became one of the biggest hits out there and led to Carpenter getting many more gigs. The Fog, other films. Now, he is a different kind of filmmaker, I'm going to say that right now, but it's incredible. There's really no other way. Alright, with that said, happy Halloween. I recommend you get this collector's edition. It is absolutely worth it. It's got everything. It is from Scream and Shout Factory, so that's another reason why I'm kind of enjoying it. Except Poltergeist 2. I don't know what it is about that Atmos track, but it was horrible. Everything else of the film worked. And in this film's case, everything that I've heard watching the whole movie again multiple times is just going to work. It's fantastic. I do make it a point to watch at least one of these Halloween movies every year. They're part of the holiday. And also now Trick or Treat as well. And I think Trick or Treat will also be getting a 4K copy soon too. The only problem there is it'll probably be close to Halloween. There's no way I'm going to get it in my house by that time. But still, I have a collector's edition from Shout Factory, so that's good enough. And that movie was fantastic, and this movie is fantastic. It's the granddaddy of like most of the you know slasher films, and it also borrows from the great master of Alfred Hitchcock in some ways, and people have admitted that. This film is incredible. There's no other way to say it. I would recommend it to anybody. This particular version is beautiful. It's well done. It pops in all the right spots, and yet it doesn't feel like they left shit everywhere. All right, the previous version has so much crap that I'm amazed that the film even looks good. It's like who put this up? And when you get past a certain size, yeah, even in 4K, it looks horrible. It's like, oh god. This version is just incredible. Even though I can like now start to spot things like the old dirt and grain in the film quality, it's you know I can like ignore it and just watch the film. In fact, unless I'm like purposely looking for it, I can ignore it. And even on this image you're seeing right now, some stuff could pop up real quick and it's not. It's just the detail is there and it's so incredible. And I'm just like, wow. So guys, like and subscribe, hit the bell for notification. Happy Halloween, and I'll see what else I can do for you guys. Bye and later.